Hello neighbor, I'm Robert Burns and it is such a delight to be back with you, and today we're going to be discussing what could very well end up being a very problematic situation for two city government employees. And we're talking specifically about the city of Central, which used to be a suburban area of Baton Rouge. They broke out, the city of Central did, 12 years ago in the year 2005 and incorporated into being their own city. They take great pride in being their own city, nothing wrong with that. It was largely motivated to bring about an improved school system, and many would argue they have succeeded in doing so. And as one would imagine, as a city progresses and goes along, it encounters some growing pains, and that would appear to be some of the more, we'll say, problems of a larger city, entailing corruption. And we've certainly seen that in the news lately with regard to former City of Central City Administrator David Barrow. We'll give you a link for an article about Mr. Barrow and his recent arrest on allegations of forgery charges entailing signing Mayor Junior Shelton's signature on some documents, at least allegedly doing so. He vehemently proclaims his innocence, and so naturally we will look to see how that plays out. But today I want to bring to you a little different situation, and this involves two folk that are involved with City of Central government, one of whom is a city councilman, specifically Mr. Jason Ellis. Jason Ellis. And we're going to give you a direct link for his City of Central, a little web page, a little bio on him. Actually, I did a PDF printout because you can't give a direct link to it, so it was easier to just save it as PDF. That will give you a little background on Mr. Ellis. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Ellis and his wife, Kim, they were victims of this most recent August flood, and they, as many residents of Central did, encountered some pretty significant devastation from that flood. So what they did is they called upon a longtime friend to come and repair their home. A gentleman named Brandon Woods, had been friends with a long time, but as sometimes happens in these type situations, friendships can deteriorate when things don't go as they would want them to go, and naturally tempers are hotter than usual when you're dealing with flood devastation and so forth. So basically, Mr. Woods is a gentleman that does house repairs and always keeps that amount below $75,000 because otherwise you have to have a contractor's license. He does not. He is insured and whatnot, but the amount of these repairs, if I remember correctly, I believe the estimate that I saw was approximately $57,000. But at any rate, as things went along, things got really ugly, and there were allegations that, hey, there's shoddy workmanship, this, that, and the other. Of course, that's vehemently denied by Mr. Woods. But here's where the problem comes in. The potentially questionable activity. Jason Ellis, while sitting in his role as a city councilman, decided to call upon Jennifer Sims, who happens to be the attorney for the City of Central. And he said, hey, look, we got a problem with this old boy Brandon Woods. Never mind that he's a longtime friend. We got a real problem here, and we want you to represent us, okay? Now, there is at least a potential, you have to tread lightly here, as to whether or not they may be an ethical violation. Emphasis on the word may. I mean, that can be determined by people of a higher pay grade than me. But certainly if you can't show that there was remuneration at the outset of this, paid for by an individual check on the part of Mr. Ellis, it may lend a little more credence to that. But what really is interesting here is Mr. Woods has represented to us that there was some undue influence exercised here to try to force a coercive settlement down his throat. Okay, not one but two. And he alleges that Ms. Sims threatened him with criminal prosecution and arrest, to which he has said, I welcome the police. okay? And he is asserting that both Mr. Ellis, in his capacity as a sitting city councilman, as well as Ms. Sims, using the heavy hand of government in her role as the city attorney, used undue influence from their positions to coerce settlements that cannot be justified in these circumstances. And in an attempt to be fair, we contacted Ms. Sims. She did seem a little bit rattled, to say the least, by my inquiries in this matter. She was emphatic that there was certainly no ethical violation. I did ask her if she had anything in writing from the ethics board. She said she cleared every bit of this through the ethics board prior to commencing with her little legal arrangement with Mr. Ellis and his wife Kim. Now, his wife Kim, by the way, is a real estate agent for Berkshire Hathaway Properties. So she's knowledgeable, one would have to believe, about real estate and whatnot. But at any rate, she was very defensive that there certainly was no ethical violation here. She did admit that, now this is the way she says what happened. She said she did advise her clients, and that would be Mr. Ellis, the city councilman, that there are some criminal statutes that you might want to make him aware of that he may be in violation of here. That's her version of what happened. Mr. Woods' version is very different, that there were direct threats of arrest made here. And that it wasn't just through guiding her clients that, hey, you may want to advise him that there may be criminal violations here. He says he was placed under direct threat of arrest and criminal prosecution, and the crux of his claim is that, and I say his claim, his allegation, is that she, Mr. Ellis, utilized, and being basically the boss of Ms. Sims, because he along with the other councilmen make the decision of who they're going to employ as the city attorney. And that's why I said, if there's not some kind of a remuneration proof here, it would be very much analogous to the Burl Cain situation. Now granted, he has the ultimate low cost in labor in prisoners, and he had him come out there and do some work on his property. So therein lies the crux of, number one, the issues that are to be resolved here is, was there an ethical violation? I don't know whether there was or not in representing them. Was there undue influence by virtue of her office to strong arm a coercive settlement? And I'm using Mr. Woods' words on that. I've seen it. It does look rather tilted toward the Ellises. I'll tell you that. In fact, there was a second settlement. I've seen them both. Both of these were prepared by Ms. Sims. And critical question is, was there coercion and the use of undue influence, one party having some more power over another by virtue of the fact, hey, I'm the city attorney for the city of Zachary. You're going to pay this man, or we're going to look at criminal prosecution. Did she make those assertions directly? Did she just advise her client that, hey, you might want to suggest these criminal statute violations? Either one of those actions are certainly questionable, highly, highly questionable. And I got a feeling we're going to see some more of it, because I don't believe, from my take on this, that Mr. Woods is just going to roll over and play dead on this. I may be wrong, but I think you're probably going to see a little bit more to report on you on. But I'm just going to give you a little preliminary of what is being alleged here. Now, I've tried my best to present. I will say this. In speaking with Ms. Sims, who did hang the phone up on me, I graciously thanked her for her time. She didn't extend me the courtesy of saying, well, goodbye, you have a good day, Mr. Burns. I don't know that she slammed the phone down, but I do know that there was no goodbye or anything of that nature. I guess my line of questioning was a little bit unnerving for her. I don't know. I would have to assume so. But she did volunteer this. She did say, I no longer represent Jason and Kim Ellis, but it's for reasons that have nothing to do with any kind of perceived ethical violation. And she was very adamant that she takes ethics and potential violations thereof very, very seriously. But she did say they now have another attorney, and she was not at liberty as to go into the details of why. So we'll give you the link for Mr. Ellis's page. We're going to give you a link for Ms. Sims's page. She is a partner with Brazil Saxi. She's had her law's license for about 10 years. I did ask her if when she cleared this, pre-cleared this with the ethics board, I said, well, you know, you being an attorney for 10 years, I would figure that you were probably smart enough to ask for anything like that clearance in writing. And I said, if you'd like to supply that to me, I'll be happy to put it in as part of this broadcast. She said, I'm sure you would, and told me I wouldn't be getting any such correspondence for her. It was not long after all of that the phone conversation ended abruptly with her hanging up. But anyway, those are the issues that we're presenting to you. Like I said, with the City of Central, you get some growing pains. We've got Mr. Barrow. He adamantly proclaims his innocent. Mr. Shelton says this damn sure isn't my signature. So we'll see how that scenario plays out, and we'll see if anything further develops on this little situation between the combination tag team of Jason Ellis and Miss Sims, Jennifer Sims, the attorney, the city attorney, and one of the councilmen, Jason Ellis, in this little squabble that has taken place with his longtime friend, Brandon Woods. We look forward to following up with you on this feature as developments unfold. Once again, this is Robert Burns. Thank you so much for your viewership. We are getting more and more requests to be added to our email distribution list, and we believe that's a function of you liking, or at least having strong interest. Some of you may not like what you see, but there's a lot of interest in what we're presenting, and that makes us very, very happy. So once again, this is Robert Burns. Hope you have a very enjoyable upcoming weekend. Even though we're in the early part of the week, it's not too early to wish you a very enjoyable weekend. Thank you once again.